So animation retargeting, that's the thing that's going to allow us to make this holding the gun animation, even though by default this asset didn't come with one. Now, I believe Epic, there is some asset pack that has a bunch of gun holding animations, but I didn't have that at the time, and so I got into something called, yeah, this retargeting thing. Basically, you're taking one of the existing animations, let's get rid of this, uh, duplicating it, and then repositioning the bones, repositioning the skeleton mesh into a position and adding new keyframes. So now it animates slightly differently and gets you more closer to what you want. So I based my holding the gun animation based on the idle animation. So let's take the holding the gun. We can duplicate that and let's call it hold gun arm out. We'll just do a little live demo here. It's not too confusing. So this is the animation editor. This is for adjusting individual animations. There's also one for adjusting something called animation montages, and that's where you can set up something called slots, but that's not what this is. We're not going to worry about that. So in this single animation, I can actually click anywhere on the skeleton and click the bones. Actually, if you look at the skeleton tree, I can actually just kind of go through them all here, and you can edit and select. And this is also where you can add, you can see the slots, which is what you, not the slots, the sockets. And the sockets are what you can use to sort of pose and lock animations, or pose and lock static meshes onto the skeletal mesh, which is what I did here for this gun. But for the retargeting, I basically took the idle animation, and what you can do with any of these joints or any of these bones is start to rotate. So I can just rotate this arm out. So now he has his arm out. And then I can, first of all, we need to stop this animation. And then we're just going to add this as a keyframe. We can add this as a keyframe right here, hit apply. And now if we play it, you see now he has his arm out as he's shooting this gun. So and that's pretty much all you need to do to retard. That's the basics of retargeting animation. Now, to go from idle to holding a gun, that required a lot of finessing, and as you can see, it still doesn't look super great. It's kind of not something you're supposed to do. You're really supposed to go into your 3D Max, your Maya, your Blender, your whatever you got that you use to make the model and the animation, and actually just make a new one, not do this thing. But for what I'm doing for this proof of concept, that was just fine. So we can go back to this blend space, and we could click over here where it is third person gun. And you can see he's blending between those animations. We could change this to be third person hold gun arm out. And we can save this. And now, when we play, now they're all holding their arms out when they're shooting at me. And that is basically how animation retargeting works. That's really all I had to do. Again, with a little more finessing, but that's all the technical detail. And so from there, we can move on to the next topic. So we've talked about animations. Now we can talk about AI. AI is what drives the behavior of the non-player characters in the game. When we're talking about AI, there are three basic assets we need to discuss. That is a behavior tree, a blackboard, and a task. So let's go over the behavior tree first. The behavior tree, as you can see, is a tree. It contains nodes for basically choosing routes in the behavior. The selector will go from kind of left to right, and depending on the success of what happens on a left child, it will move on to the right child. And then the sequences do kind of the same thing, kind of just executes everything under them in order. And then right at the kind of the leaf nodes of these trees, these are tasks. Now, some tasks are built in, such as this rotate to face BB entry, and some tasks are written by the game developer. That is the find player, the try shoot, and the get random location. I had to write all those. That is special behavior that is probably going to consist most of the behavior in your AI. Next, we have the blackboard. The blackboard is what we use to write variables to from the tasks that we make to this blackboard that we can then use later in other tasks. So for example, in In the behavior tree, we use the find player task to write to the player location blackboard value. This is a vector 3. And then from there, we can use that player location vector 3 blackboard value in the rotate to face BB entry. And then last are just the tasks. Some of these are built in, such as that, like I said, that rotate function or the wait. And some of these, like this find player, are written by the developer. This one is pretty simple. It just gets the player pawn, which is the player-controlled, actor in the game, and finds its location and writes it to the blackboard. With these 3 assets, we can create all of the AI routines we need for the whole game. Next, I'm going to talk about how the blackboard and tasks work in a little more detail.